Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 98 of the WP Café show with me, Mark Wilkinson, and my co-host, Keith Devon.
Hello.
It's nice to be back, and we've got a few things to chat through today concerning our recent or ongoing full site editing build that we're doing. So a lot of today's content will be focused around that. As always, if you're joining us live, let us know in the chat who you are, where you are, and if you have any questions on what we're talking about, we're always happy to try and answer them as best we can. Put some of those comments and questions on the screen. If you're enjoying the show, please give us a like. It also helps us out, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. So, Keith, how is your week? What have you been up to?
I've been building a website. Yeah, it's been an interesting experience so far. We can get into it in more detail after the intros. But yeah, I've had some highs and lows this week when it comes to WordPress theme development. Some pretty extreme lows, but we'll get to those. Yeah, it's been interesting. I don't know how much to talk about it right now. Apart from that, the sun has been shining. Went for a bike ride yesterday. It's really nice. It's just I love this time of year. Whenever it's like, you get a bit of nice weather. The sun's still really warm, and it's just like, it's nice. Good. Went for a sea swim the other day. Still warm enough to get in the sea. So it's kind of the warmest time of year actually, but I haven't been in much this year. So not too much more than that. How about yourself? How are the squirrels?
Oh, I think we've evicted the squirrels, which was a pain. A combination of music, noises, barking dogs, squirrel repellent sounds from YouTube.
What music did you play them?
A bit of rave from the 90s with a big banging beat on it. Yeah, that's pretty good. Well, it's pretty horrific actually, but obviously they didn't like it. And a bit of peppermint oil. Which of these actually worked, or whether it was just pure luck that they decided to do one, I'm not sure.
You just threw everything at them.
We've blocked the hole up, and fingers crossed, that's going to be the end of those.
Very good.
What else have I been up to? I've been wrestling with WooCommerce this week. Trying to make some customizations for one of our clients that wants to sort of sell some products, but they've got some specific requirements about some products they're not selling, but they still want to be able to put them through the basket so that they can then contact the customers and inquire about it and so on. So it's some specific things there. I'm currently looking at customizing the emails that WooCommerce sends when you sort of do an order and things like that to split out the items that are buyable and not buyable. So that's been interesting. It's always a bit more difficult than you think. I think when you get into WooCommerce, it's quite a beast to work with. So it's been an interesting one. And then I've just been working on my presentation for WordPress London next week, all about our products that we sell and moving towards those. So that is kind of finished. Just need to run through it really, make sure my notes are up to date, get that sorted, and then looking forward to that next week. If you are around in London, I'd love to see you down there. It's on Thursday evening. It's on meetup.com. You can sign up and we'll say hello. Good. Yeah. I think the videos are on YouTube afterwards, I think. So they should be able to catch them after. It's not live. It's not like a live transmitted thing, though. So you have to wait afterwards.
Yeah, so, very good.
Yep. So that's us for this week. Hopefully you've all had a great week and getting lots of stuff done. Hi to Paul, Elliot, Sam, Nicholas. Thank you very much for joining us. So let's get stuck into this week's content. So we've kind of split this up into FSE woes and FSE wins. And they've kind of got the same number of bullet points in each, which is kind of encouraging-ish. He's shaking his head, but never mind. So we'll cover the woes first, and we'll finish on the wins, shall we?
Well, yeah, they might get a bit mixed up, but
that's fine. That's fine. So for those that haven't been tuning in each week, we're currently doing a full site editing build for one of our clients. The designs have now been signed off, and we have got all the assets delivered to us. So we've got, I think it's Adobe XD access, isn't it, to things?
Yeah.
So we've been going through those designs, working out how we're going to build all this stuff in full site editing. And as part of that, you've been sort of getting started with what you might call the basics, typography, spacing, etc., etc. So, what has been the woes, I guess, about that?
Before we get to the FSE woes, I think I had design woes before that. So we got the design files through, and we had mock-ups of, I think they did about 5 or 6 key pages, I think, on the site, the design agency.
Yeah.
And then I got something resembling like a kind of web style guide from them. And then I realized quickly that they don't necessarily all match up for a start like that. So first thing I always want to start with on a project is typography, because I just think that's the basis of a design. So I always try to start there. So I looked through the style guide and I wonder if I've still got it up somewhere, and the mock-ups. And I think I found, have I got it here? Yes, I do. It was more than this, but I think I found about 15 different font sizes that are used on the website. And there were things that were in the mock-ups that weren't in the style guide, and possibly even vice versa. So it was a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
And I couldn't work out how any of the font sizes actually related to each other, like whether they're using some kind of scale or whatever. And some of them had mobile versions of the font size, and some didn't. So, for example, one of the headings went from 20 pixels to 16 pixels. The other, something else that used 20 pixels, stayed at 20 pixels on mobile. So it was just, so the first thing I did was scrap what the designers have done and come up with my own.
Right.
So I used a site, I think I mentioned it on this show before, probably like over a year ago, utopia.fyi. And it's a tool by, I think, the guys from Clear Left, they're a pretty well-known agency, came up with a scalable, responsive typography kind of tool, and also spacing. So I basically took that guide, or took that tool, built my own typographic scale that kind of, as roughly as I could, like aligned it to the designs. So maybe when the design said 45 pixels for this particular heading level, mine comes in at 43, but it's close enough. Like, and at least all of the font sizes actually have some kind of relation to each other. So that's the first thing I did. I think I compressed it down to about 7 font sizes instead of maybe 8. Can't remember, instead of 7, whatever it was before. So I did all that to start with, and that was good. And then I started like, right, I need to actually kind of get these font sizes into the theme. So that's the first thing I'm going to try to do. So I load up theme JSON, and what I did initially was I had the output from Utopia, which is a bunch of kind of clamp rules for font size that comes up with like custom properties, and it uses clamp. So it says like at the small screen sizes, it should be the font size should be this, at the big one, it should be this. And there's a kind of fancy function in between that's related to the screen size. So I just used those custom properties in my theme.json. So it's like when it says, what is the font size? I use that custom property. And that was all all right. It works really well. And then I realized, hang on, WordPress actually lets us do fluid typography now out of the box. And just wanting to try to use as much native stuff as possible, I'm like, I'm going to do this the WordPress way. So I added a fluid, I can't remember exactly what it is in theme.json, but like fluid true,
I think, isn't it?
And then for each of the font sizes, I had my normal font size, which is say 1.5 rem, and then my fluid min max, so 1.25 to 1.5 or something like that. So I moved them all from the kind of, I still use the same values that Utopia had output. I just put them into native kind of theme.json. So that was cool. And then I thought, well, Utopia also does spacing rules. So I'll just do the same for spacing. But WordPress, as far as I know, doesn't allow you to do fluid spacing rules, which I think is a real shortcoming. So
just for the sake of me not understanding this stuff, fluid, I think I do understand typography. I remember us chatting about it on the WP Engine build mode session on Friday afternoons. But I think fluid, is it where you say, here's a minimum for the font size, here's a maximum for the font size, And when the screen size changes, WordPress will work out something in the middle of that, depending on what the screen size is.
That's exactly right.
The same for spacing. Right.
So at mobile sizes, your body font might be 16 pixels. At desktop, it might be 20, and somewhere in between, it might be 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if you want to go bigger on a mobile? Do you just step them the other way around?
I don't know why you would, but yes, probably. I've never even thought.
You might want to see it.
I've never even thought about that.
Yeah.
Never thought about that.
Cool.
So for the spacing, I couldn't do it natively, so I did it the old-fashioned way. So I put the Utopia spacing variables in my style sheet, and I just referenced those in theme.json. So it still works. So this, for the spacing point of view, it's exactly the same as the typography. So I can say I want this to be small spacing, medium spacing, large spacing. And on mobile, small is 5 pixels, and on desktop it's 10 pixels, and it's somewhere in between on the intermediate screen sizes. So it's exactly the same principle. And you can see why that works, because you could imagine, like, on a desktop, if you want to use a lot of white space, you might have like 100 pixels padding around a group.
Yeah.
You don't want 100 pixels padding around something on mobile.
No.
But without doing it this way, that's what would happen.
And to confirm, space. So when you're defining spacing, what's the word? Like spacing rules. What are the words? Steps.
Yes.
Is that right? So you're saying, I've got these steps 1 to 5. 1 is this big. 5 is bigger than whatever.
Exactly.
Are they then used for padding and margin? They're the same.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. That's fine.
As far as I'm aware, and I don't know, you can't separate those, but maybe you can.
Right.
But I think it makes sense that they're the same.
Yeah, it probably makes sense that they're tied together. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was okay. So I got all that stuff working. So that was good. and then I started to hit a few blockers. The first one was because I just wanted to build the structure of the page first. I wanted a header and a footer and a content area.
Yes.
So I started building out my index template, and I'll segue slightly here. I just jumped into this just from scratch, just like throwing stuff at theme.json. And then I was like, okay, that's right. You haven't done this in a while. Let's do some learning as we go. So I opened up Frank Klein's course. Is it the block theme development course of his? Let me just find it. So this is wpdevelopment.courses, and it is I believe it is the Block Theme Academy course. Yep. So Frank's moved platform. He used to be on WordPress. His current, I think the learning platform isn't actually a WordPress one anymore, which is interesting. But it's very good. So I still had access from when I bought it ages ago. So I started like going through it from the start, watching every video. What is a block theme? What is FSE? What is theme.json? Blah, blah, blah. And like, as he was instructing how to add a color palette, I'd add a color palette. How to add a font sizes palette, I'd add a font sizes palette, etc., etc. Anyway, so back to where I was trying to build out the template, like the index or the page template. And for some reason, our header and footer template parts weren't registered correctly. So I did that correctly. So it was a proper header template part and a proper footer template part. And then I had the content in the middle, and that was all fine. And then I thought, oh yeah, on this design, they want a sticky header. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I knew that there's like position sticky. I've played with it before in the site editor and haven't got it to work.
Is it on a group block? I can't remember.
Yeah. So this is what I thought was going to work. I went into my header template part, clicked edit. The first block in my header template part is a group.
Yep.
And I went position sticky. Refresh.
Makes sense to me.
Not sticky. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So I did a bit of Googling. I'm pretty sure that Jamie Morrison had some content on this. So I found Jamie's. And then I found Frank's, and they both did the same technique. So you go into your template editor and you wrap your header template part in a group and you make that sticky. And I'm thinking,
But then you can't have a
What on
sticky
earth
header
is the
and a
point
non-sticky
of
header.
the header template part if I have to wrap it in something on every individual template? Yeah, I just thought that is absolute craziness. So I don't know the mechanics behind that and why that's the case.
Because the template part, the idea of the template parts, obviously we've talked about this on this show before. I'm still not 100% sure what they are actually, but the idea is you can swap them out, can't you? So I might have 5 headers and I want to be able to say on the index I want header A and on the single I want header B. So surely at that point you'd say, well, header A is sticky and header B is not. But it appears that you can't do that then.
That's what I was thinking.
Because it's on each template anyway.
So now on every template I add, I have to wrap my header template part in this group. I don't know. It's
in the future then, if we want to not make the header sticky, we have to edit every template.
Yes.
Not just the template part.
Yeah, exactly.
That's strange.
Yeah, so I thought I was like, that's just garbage. And annoyingly, like, and I can kind of see it from the content creator's point of view, but like neither Jamie or Frank raised the fact that this is a bit shit. You know, I kind of want them to be like, this is a bit of a hack, but it's the way we have to do it today. But it's just like, yes, you can do this great thing just by doing this. And it's like, but there's consequences to that. Like there's, it just annoyed. I'm not annoyed at them. It's just like a general feeling of like, this is all great. Like, let's ignore the problems. And it's just like, that frustrates me.
I wonder why they've done
I want to feel kind of like heard. Like, I want to feel like the people that I'm absorbing this content from, like, get me, understand where I'm coming from. And sometimes I don't feel like that at all. So that was a bit frustrating.
It would be, if anybody knows why that's been implemented like that, I'd love to know.
Why. I need to dig into the markup and why it is that the fact that it is in a template part
doesn't work,
renders that sticky positioning defunct. I don't quite understand. Is
it because the template part has its own wrappative?
That exactly. If it's that, it makes perfect sense, and it would be very easy for me. In fact, I could probably do it like while we're talking, just to find that out. Let me just, if I go to I'll do this.
Elliot says it's probably something to do. Oh, hang on, that's moved. That one. It's probably something to do with the parent positioning, relative and absolute. Parent positioning, because the parent, if it's inside the template has a wrapper. The group has a parent.
So the template part is the header element, and that you cannot apply sticky positioning to the template part,
right?
Which is why you have to wrap it. And I just think, is that a good implementation? I'm not sure it is. I'm not sure I don't think that's right. Why can't I have the template part and it just outputs whatever is in that template part, and I can build my header element in there? Because when you add a group block in WordPress, you can say what it is. You can say it's a name or an article or a header. So why can't I just create that header element in there and add position sticky to it there? Why does it have to wrap it in something that I have no control over?
But also, you've got a setting that doesn't do anything. Like you said, I could choose to make it sticky in the template part, but then it just didn't do anything.
No, I can't. You can't do it to the template part. You can do it within the template part.
That's what I mean.
But that in theory could work if you structure that template part in a weird way.
Right.
But yeah. Basically, you can add position sticky to any group block.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's going to work. You know,
because
there's only certain circumstances where position sticky actually works. So,
and is that when it's a direct child of the main wrapper for blocks?
No, not necessarily, because you can actually have sticky positioning within groups as well. Right. So yeah,
that's just confusing for users. If like sticky is there and I'm pressing sticky and it's not doing anything.
100%
doesn't make sense.
Maybe it needs to be more context aware, but I think that'll be incredibly difficult. Or maybe there just needs to be some kind of like descriptive text saying this doesn't always do what you think. Go and check this guide over here. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, it confused me, and I've been a front end person for I don't know how long. Anyway, so I got really pissed off about that, and then I thought, right, I need some easy wins. I'm going to go back to my typography, and I'm going to start with my H2s. And the H2 in this design has a little underline, like a little centered underline. So I did that with some pseudo elements and stuff just in my style sheet. And then I was like, it also has quite a lot of spacing around it. So what I'm going to do is I'll just add some spacing in my style sheet, margin bottom, whatever, margin top, whatever. I thought, no, I won't do that in the style sheet. I'll go and do that. I know I can do that in theme. I think I can do that in theme JSON. Right. So I go into my theme JSON. No, in fact, and then I thought, no, don't do it in theme JSON. Do it in the UI and save it back to theme JSON through the create block theme plugin.
Yes.
So I went in there and I fiddled around, and I found that you can set certain styles per heading level in the global style editor. So I can say an H2 is this font family and this font size and is uppercase, and an H3 is a different font size, different font family, normal casing. I can do that. I can also, when I go into the blocks global styling, set global styles for headings. So I can say all of my headings have this margin, this padding. So you've got layout controls at the headings block level, but you don't have typographic control, or you don't have those layout controls at the individual heading levels. So I don't have margin and padding, etc., available to me for H2s, H3s, H4s.
Got you. But you do have typographic controls.
Yes.
For H2s, 3s, 4s,
yes.
5s, and 6s.
Yeah, so that's a bit confusing as well. So there's like styles, there's general kind of typographic styles, and then there's block styles, and they're kind of like mix and match a little bit. Anyway,
I wonder what the rationale for providing typographic changes on a heading level was, but not providing padding and margin controls for those.
Because you're specifically in a typography. I don't know. I don't know. I would expect it to be there as well. I would expect it to be there.
You're in a kind of typography zone. Then there's no point going halfway. Why it doesn't make sense.
I kind of agree.
Either let me control it per heading level or don't.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I agree. So I couldn't do it through the UI and save it back, and I was like, oh, I can't do it. And I thought, well, maybe you can actually do it directly in theme JSON, or it could have been Elliot actually that suggested that to me on X.
Thank you, because we know that
your patience and help.
We know that the site editor UI doesn't allow you to do everything, does it? We know that. So there is
stuff it doesn't expose the whole of theme JSON.
Code into theme JSON, yeah. So that makes sense. So go on then. How did that go?
So I went into theme JSON and I found out, and this is hard as well, because loads of the documentation refer to version 2 of theme JSON, and we're now in version 3. So I'm never sure whether what I'm reading is actually going to work. So I didn't have a lot of confidence, but I figured out where I thought it should go, and it was in elements, H2, layout, margin, and then I could set top and bottom. So that those are the kind of nodes of the tree or whatever. Apologies for my lack of technical knowledge. But so I tried that, go and refresh, nothing changed. I'm like, let's just make it a really big margin 100, refresh, nothing changes. I'm like, God damn it. So then I start thinking it's something wrong with my theme JSON. So I start like, where should it be? Should it go here? Should it go there? And then I actually looked at the output CSS. It was like, no, it is there. It says H2 margin top 70 pixels. That's what I've added in theme JSON. So the theme JSON is working. I'm like, well, why can't I see that margin on the front end?
Something's overriding it then.
So I was like, what's going on there? So, and then I find the culprit, and it's the block gap. It's my block gap setting. So I've set block gap in my theme JSON, and it is overriding my H2's margins. Like, that's weird. Why is that? So I start experimenting with the block gap. If I set it to 0, it doesn't work because it's still 0. So it's like 0 pixels. And so everything's just like compressed. if I set no value at all, so empty quotes, it works, but I don't have my block gap anymore. So I'm like, can I only use block gap or element margins and not both? That's weird. So that's kind of where I am right now. I think that is the case. So like digging around again this morning, I started to play with the CSS a little bit, and the block gap selector is using like root and then where is layout constrained, children of any. So any child of layout constrained within the root. And it's not a reasonably specific selector. It's like 0, 1, 0 in the specificity kind of rules. But it's more specific than my H2 styling, which is 0, 0, 1, I think, in the how CSS kind of works all this stuff out.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, well, why do we even have the root? What happens if we take the root out? Fixes the problem, like, and maintains my block gap everywhere. And I was like, or what if we just extend the where to include the loop? So in CSS, if you wrap a selector in where, it reduces the specificity of that to 0. So I think that's why that they've used where. They've already tried to reduce the specificity, I'm assuming for other reasons, but it hasn't come down far enough because this root is in front of it. And so, yeah, those two things seem to fix the issue, but God knows what issues that they might cause elsewhere. Like I haven't done any extensive testing. So if someone can answer why we've got root in front of that rule, please let me know. But just super, like, moral of the story for me, I was trying to do something so basic the right way, and it proved to be impossible to do. Like, I'm just trying to add spacing to a margin. I'm just trying to add spacing to an H2.
Yeah.
The way that WordPress is trying to get me to do it these days, the way people keep telling me to do things. And it's just like, I spent all day doing it yesterday. I didn't make any other progress. It's just like,
what I find interesting is that it only seems to be us having these problems.
Oh, I don't know. It's not.
Or everybody else having the same problems and having to hack their way around these things that don't work. But,
yeah,
well, for the want of a better word, just not moaning about them and just saying, oh, well, it's rubbish, but it's the way it goes. I don't know. Yeah. Or are we doing it wrong again? That's why I feel at the moment. It feels very...
I think some people have a mindset of just get on with it. Yeah, that's broken. Let's just use this workaround. Let's use that workaround. And I feel I need to try to get into that mindset a little bit more. I don't know. Like, I was speaking to some of my friends this morning, and some of them were saying, yeah, we just remove block gap and just do everything in a CSS file, or they're just like, yeah, it's not perfect, so we do it this way. Yeah,
it's just frustrating, isn't it? Because you move into this full site editing because it's supposed to be better. Yeah, you're constantly coming up against barriers that make it not better. I think that's where it's frustrating. But
yeah,
anyway,
it also like brings me to another point of like, how do you find out how theme JSON works?
Yeah,
like what to put where?
Yeah.
Like, what can I put in styles? What can I put in settings? What can I put in styles elements H2? What is valid in there? And people will say your code editor, if you put the schema in, your code editor will auto suggest. But I need to know what I need to start typing in order to auto suggest.
Exactly.
Like, yes, it can help me fill it out once I kind of have a rough idea. But if I don't know that I can put typography under H2, I'm not going to start typing typography. I mean, I could start guessing at things, which is actually what I did. But yeah, I'd love a full, and the schema is unreadable for me. Well, for me anyway. I can't make head or tails of it. I'd love an example of a full theme JSON
with every setting available set. Yeah, I think that'd be good.
Yeah,
maybe anyone somewhere. If it does, let us know, because it would be useful. I think
it'd be super useful. So yeah, I mean, those are the woes. I think that was all the woes. Was it? I can't remember. Where's our notes? I think that was most of the woes. So that was frustrating. The wins were Frank's course is really good, and I would recommend it.
Yeah.
The fluid font size stuff is really cool. Having that native is really cool. Please introduce that for spacing as well. I just think that those go hand in hand.
Yeah, because you would have thought, again, like if they've done it for font sizes, surely it's already there.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't.
The mathematical
one
stuff's already there, so why would you just apply it to the other one? I don't know.
Exactly. Feels like exactly the same system.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So those are my wins. You kind of had one as well.
Yeah. So we were wondering how to. Well, so we've gone for building some custom blocks essentially. So this website design has an array of card styles, doesn't it? Like for different things, call to action cards on the site. Most of them have like an image, a title. They will link somewhere. Some have other little elements, like a secondary line of text, etc. And then some, some have boxed the content. Some have just overlaid it over the image. But essentially, they're all kind of like a variation of a card. So when we look at them, you think, well, you could build those probably with native blocks, but then we're back into the situation where we can't update things globally because they'll all be pasted on pages. So if you want to say, actually, with the cover style now puts the text at the top and not the bottom, you can't just save that globally across the website. You'd have to go in and start editing all the content again to update it. So we decided that we'd go with an ACF system, building a card block where you can choose a style. It can then show and hide the different fields that you might want based on that style, and then set that up. So that's been quite good, actually, building that sort of stuff. And then what we wanted to do is that made sense to me to build those as plugins. So each of the blocks that we're going to build, this being one of them, we'd have a plugin. So we'd have like, project card block. But then where do we load the styles for that? Because they are very specific to this theme. So it doesn't really make sense to put them in a plugin, because if the theme changes in 3 years' time, the styles for that block are going to change. So what we've gone for is there's a function called WP&Q block style, I think it is. So essentially what I've done is basically said, get me all of the blocks that are available on this website as a list, and then loop through that list. And if we have a file in a certain location with a certain name, I think it's like core-block name, then enqueue it. So all you need to do, Keith, is to basically say, oh, I'm styling the verse block, because every site does that, obviously. Then I'm just going to put core-verse.css, and I can chuck all my CSS in there, basically, and that will automatically get enqueued in the theme. So that was quite a nice little win. Haven't managed it for JavaScript yet, but I think I've got a solution. Because I don't think this block will need JavaScript. It might do. I don't think it will. We're doing a testimonials one, which will be a slider, though, so that will definitely need some JavaScript. I think in block.json, you can pass a reference to a JavaScript file that is loaded in the editor and loaded on the front end. The problem was that reference is a file in the same folder, relative to the block.json file itself. Well, actually, I want to reference a file in the theme to say, hey, load this JavaScript from the theme. Now, I think you can do that by registering a script in WordPress with the normal WP register script, and you give it a name, and then you can pass that handle name into that bit in the block.json, and I think it will load it. But I haven't tried that yet, so that's going to be my next little task on that one. But yeah, that card block's built. It needs styling. I think that's going to work quite well for us, actually. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that was my wins for it. Yeah. Back to good old normal development for me.
I've just do you know, I was talking about like theme.json having a way to kind of like see it all.
Yep.
I've just started playing with like a blank theme.json file.
Yeah.
And letting kind of autocomplete do its thing. So I just kind of like, what's it suggest next? And I just keep doing it. It would be massive. It would be absolutely massive. Because, for example, under settings and blocks, then you have to, for each block, you'd have like the biggest array of like data. So I just wonder what actually people want, because that would be reason that, yeah, it would be hard to parse that.
Because you've got blocks in that settings thing, surely only certain settings are available for certain blocks. Because not all blocks have I don't know if all blocks have typography, for example.
That's
they don't. So therefore, you can't put typography in an image block because there isn't any.
Let me try it. Hang on. That's really good. So if I do core/image,
presumably you can't put typography in that because there is no typography for an image.
I can.
So what does that do then?
I don't know, but I can put it in the theme JSON. So
and it's accepted in the schema.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know. I presume it won't do anything because.
Yeah, well, that's interesting though, isn't it? But I
suppose, isn't there?
I just thought like it would be cool to have just a web page somewhere with the whole theme.json file, but actually, unless there's a way to kind of filter that or search it or collapse it, it's not that usable.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Anyway,
those are our full site editing woes and wins. So give us your overall impression then, Keith. At this point in time, sat there now, full site editing.
Don't do that to me.
What's your overall?
I don't like it.
I can see it working. We're going to carry on with it. What's your overall?
I like the block editor.
Yeah,
I think is where I'm at.
Right, but not the full site editing experience.
There's some cool. It feels like it's a really good idea. It's just not there. Like it just doesn't work. Like there's too much missing. We've given users too much power in a way, but almost haven't gone far enough. Like if you're going to give them all that, we need the whole lot. We need the kitchen sink. And
the more I think about using this, when you're doing this sort of stuff, you've either got to give them nothing, or you've got to give them everything.
Yeah.
And we're somewhere in the middle at the moment. We're not.
This is just a perfect example. Like I was actually loving using the global styles UI.
Yeah.
It's just like, I could just do all this in here. This is way easier than writing CSS until you can't do it. Until the thing that you're trying to do isn't available. And then it's like, well, then what? And then the recommended thing doesn't work. And then you're like, and then what? And then you've got like some global styles in a UI and in your theme.json and some in a style sheet.
Yeah, it's like, where do I go to change this stuff in the future then? Isn't it? It's like,
it's messy. It's messy is what it is.
Yeah.
But there are little glimpses of hope all over the place. Like, and I've said this before, and like, I'll say it again. Matt said to us, his biggest regret about Gutenberg was that it wasn't moving fast enough. And I now understand. At the time, I thought, everything's changing way too quickly. But what he meant was this.
Yeah.
We're not it's not as polished enough, quickly enough, I think is what he meant. Like he had the vision, but we're going to have to go through all this pain to get there. And like, you want to be able to click your fingers and be at the end of that journey because the journey isn't fun.
So I wonder how we speed up the journey then.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe that's for another call.
Maybe
another episode.
Yeah.
Just one more thing before we finish, which I saw, which was interesting. I don't know where I saw this. I think it was a tweet from someone, maybe around WordCamp US, which is taking place at the moment, isn't it? Where is it in US?
Is it Portland this year?
Yeah, that rings
a bell. It's Portland.
It was the plugin check plugin has been launched. I don't know if it's new or whether it's been out for a while, but I thought that's interesting. And the idea being is that this is going to be used as part of the plugin review process so that plugin developers can kind of run their plugins through this thing to speed up the application process because we had this big backlog. So you can download the plugin and then this has got a little user interface where you can select the items that you want to test against. So like plugin repo was one. So I presume that means like it's going to test for things that would stop it being in the plugin repo. Don't know what specifically they are. Security. There's about 6. Can't remember what they are. So I just ticked them all on one of our plugins and then pressed run or whatever it was. And then it comes back with a little report, which was quite good. So it had some errors because we had some hidden files in folders. Git ignore was one of them, which obviously is fine because that would disappear when it was pushed up. What else was there in the error? I can't remember now. There was
you had some example text in your.
Oh yeah, in the README file. Yeah, that was right. And then it said it wasn't the version of WordPress that it supports wasn't the latest one. but that's just because I haven't tested that particular plugin in it. But yeah, I was encouraging. I don't know what I'd love to see, like a really bad plugin, and see what sort of like stuff it came up with. Is it going to pick up things like, you haven't escaped these variables or things like that, or stuff like that? But useful to know, and run your plugin straight and see what it comes up with. It'd be interesting to see. So that's something to look at. It's called Plugin Check brackets PCP on the repo if you wanted to go and have a look for it yourself.
Yeah.
So that is today's episode done 40 minutes. So we will continue with our full site editing build. No doubt we'll have stuff to report back next week.
I'm sure.
Thank you very much for joining us. If you joined us live on YouTube, this goes out as a podcast afterwards, as and when Keith exports it and puts it on the website. So you'll find it on your podcast player. Again, give us a like if you've enjoyed this. Do subscribe, and we will see you hopefully at the same time, same place next week. Bye for now.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.